She never confronted me directly. She never raised her voice or accused me openly. Instead, she whispered my name into other people's ears, quietly, carefully. At first, I didn't notice the change. Conversations became shorter. Invitations slowly stopped coming. People smiled less when they saw me. I thought it was stress. I thought I was imagining things. I had no idea that while I was living my normal life, someone was carefully rewriting my story for others. She didn't attack my face, she attacked my reputation, and she did it silently. What hurt the most was not the lies themselves, but how easily they were believed. No one asked me questions, no one checked the truth. They simply decided who I was based on someone else's words. I wanted to explain myself, I wanted to defend my name, but something inside me said to wait. I didn't know then that silence would become the most dangerous move in this story. She earned my trust slowly, not through grand gestures, but through presence. She listened when others didn't. She remembered details I forgot I had shared. She positioned herself as someone safe. That was my mistake. When someone knows your fears, your struggles, and your past mistakes, they also know exactly how to use them. She asked questions disguised as concern. She framed curiosity as care. I answered honestly, believing vulnerability created connection. What I didn't realize was that she was collecting material, not understanding me. Information is powerful in the hands of someone without integrity. She knew where I worked, who I trusted, what mattered to me. And while I thought I was building closeness, she was building a narrative, a version of me that sounded believable, but wasn't true. I didn't see the danger because there was no hostility, no warning signs, just quiet access. By the time I sensed something was wrong, she already knew more about me than anyone should. The change didn't happen all at once. It never does. People didn't accuse me. They distanced themselves. Messages were left unanswered. Plans were suddenly full. I noticed hesitation in voices, short replies, avoided eye contact. I kept asking myself what I had done wrong. The silence around me grew heavier, while her presence grew stronger. She became more visible, more involved, more trusted. I heard my own thoughts repeated back to me through other people's mouths. Concerns I shared privately were now public opinions. Still, no one confronted me. They simply believed what fit the story they were told. And that is how reputations are destroyed, not with proof, but with repetition. I considered defending myself, clearing misunderstandings, but every time I imagined speaking, I realized something frightening. I didn't know where the lies had started or how far they had spread. Speaking blindly would only make me look defensive. So I stayed quiet, not because I was guilty, but because I was careful. I discovered the truth by accident, not through confession, but through carelessness. I overheard a conversation that wasn't meant for me. She spoke about me confidently, as if she knew my intentions better than I did. She described my actions with certainty, painting motives I never had. Others listened without questioning her. In that moment, everything became clear. The distance, the coldness, the sudden judgment. She had positioned herself as the translator of my character, and people accepted it because she sounded sincere. I felt anger rise, then disbelief, then something quieter, clarity. Confronting her would create drama. Drama would shift focus from truth to emotion. She thrived in emotional chaos. So I made a decision that surprised even me. I wouldn't expose her. I wouldn't defend myself publicly. I would remove myself from the narrative completely, because lies require attention to survive, and I was done feeding them. Silence wasn't surrender, it was repositioning. Waiting is uncomfortable when your name is being questioned. Every instinct tells you to respond, to explain, to prove. But I noticed something important. The more silent I became, the more she talked. She filled the space I left behind, and she enjoyed it. Her stories grew detailed, more emotional, more confident, but also more complicated. Details began changing, timelines didn't align, motives shifted. People started asking questions, quiet ones, not to me, to her. I answered none of them. Silence gave others space to observe without my influence, and observation is dangerous for someone who depends on control. She tried provoking me, indirect comments, subtle mentions. I ignored everything. That frightened her, because manipulation needs reaction, and I had removed myself from the game. What I learned during that time was that patience is not passive. It is pressure without movement, and pressure reveals cracks without saying a single word. I wasn't waiting for revenge. I was waiting for truth to surface on its own. The breaking point came quietly. During a casual conversation, she repeated a story she had told before, but this time the details were different. Someone noticed. Someone remembered. They asked her to clarify. She laughed it off, corrected herself, then corrected the correction. The room changed, not with confrontation, but with awareness. People exchanged looks, silence settled. She continued talking, trying to regain control, but every word added weight. Because once doubt appears, it grows quickly. No one looked at me. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. Her confidence dissolved under her own contradictions. Later, people began connecting patterns, not because I explained, but because they remembered. Reputation isn't restored by arguing, it's restored by consistency. And lies collapse when they can't remember themselves. She lost credibility slowly, the same way she took mine, quietly. That symmetry wasn't satisfying, it was educational. I understood then that silence doesn't erase damage immediately, but it allows truth to rebuild without distortion. Karma didn't arrive as punishment, it arrived as consequence. Opportunities stopped coming her way. Trust was replaced with caution. People didn't accuse her, they distanced themselves, exactly the way they once did to me. She noticed the shift. Confusion turned into frustration. She tried explaining herself, defending her intentions, but explanations sounded familiar now. Too familiar. Credibility, once cracked, doesn't repair easily. She reached out to me, carefully, politely. I didn't respond. Not out of bitterness, but because my involvement was no longer necessary. The truth had momentum. Karma wasn't dramatic, it was logical. Patterns were recognized, behavior was remembered, and people adjusted accordingly. I didn't celebrate her loss, I felt relief. Not because she suffered, but because balance returned. Reputation isn't about being liked, it's about being consistent. And consistency always outlasts manipulation. Silence didn't destroy her, her own actions did. I simply stepped aside and allowed consequences to follow behavior naturally. That is how karma works, without noise, without intention, without apology. Healing didn't happen overnight. Trust rarely returns instantly. Some people apologized, some avoided the topic entirely. I didn't need explanations. I needed peace. I stopped replaying events, stopped proving anything. My energy returned slowly in small moments of calm. Mornings felt lighter. Conversations felt honest again. The absence of constant defense was unfamiliar but freeing. I learned that healing is not about justice, it's about release, letting go of the need to be understood by everyone. Some relationships never returned, and that was okay. They were built on perception, not truth. The experience reshaped my boundaries, not higher, clearer. I became more selective with access, with vulnerability, with trust. Silence no longer felt heavy, it felt intentional. I didn't become colder, I became sharper, aware. Reputation repaired itself slowly through consistency and time. Not everyone changed their mind, but enough did. And the ones who mattered most never needed explanation again. Healing wasn't loud, but it was real. And that mattered more than being believed by everyone. This experience taught me something important. Not everyone who smiles means well, and not every attack comes with confrontation. Some people destroy quietly, through suggestion, through implication, through repetition. Defending yourself loudly doesn't always protect your name. Sometimes it feeds the story you're trying to escape. Silence, when chosen intentionally, forces observation. It allows people to see patterns without interference. Truth doesn't need urgency, it needs consistency. The urge to explain often comes from fear of being misunderstood. But being misunderstood temporarily is better than being trapped in endless justification. I learned to trust time, to trust behavior. Reputations built on lies collapse under scrutiny. Reputations built on actions recover naturally. You don't need to fight every false version of yourself. You need to live in a way that contradicts it. Silence isn't avoidance, it's alignment. And alignment always attracts clarity. The loudest voices fade, the consistent ones remain. That lesson stayed with me long after the damage healed. I never confronted her. I never demanded an apology. And I never needed closure from her. Closure came when my life felt peaceful again, when my name no longer felt heavy. I understood that not every story needs a public ending. Some stories resolve quietly. Silence doesn't mean weakness when it is chosen consciously. It means restraint. It means confidence. You don't owe everyone an explanation. You don't need to correct every lie. Truth has patience, and patience reveals character better than confrontation ever could. If you are experiencing quiet sabotage, remember this. You don't need to rush. You don't need to react. Consistency will speak when you no longer do. Your actions will rebuild what words attempted to destroy. Let time do the heavy lifting. Not everything requires your voice. Some situations require your absence. And when the truth finally stands alone, it won't need your defense. You'll recognize the moment not by applause, but by peace. That is when you know your silence worked.